So in my previous video, I talked about how Sony may potentially buy Fromsoftware's parent company, Karakawa, and that talks are still ongoing, and if the deal goes through, we are looking at Sony having about 87% ownership over From Software, making it basically under Sony's control. Now, in my opinion, if this deal goes through, we are looking at a very bad future for From Software, and I will tell you why. It is because of what Sony has been doing for the past couple of years. In my eyes, Sony have become very greedy and they prioritize making money of their consumers over providing them with good games. Like, for example, Concord, which was supposed to be a hero shooter that was supposed to be Sony's next big thing. And not to mention, they wanted to sell you this game for $40 in a time where you already have a very competitive market for this genre and most of their competition is free to play, like Overwatch as a quick example. Now, Sony lost about $400 million when it came to Concord. It only lasted a week, I believe, before they pulled the plug on it, which led to them canning a game that was also being developed, and that also included shutting down the studio behind it as well. You can expect that Sony is a bit rattled by all of this happening, which will lead me to believe that they are trying to be cautious or try and take less risks after the colossal fail of a game that was Concord. Now, before I go talk about how Sony will handle FromSoft, I'll first talk about why FromSoft was very successful in the first place. And it was mainly due to their parent company having a hands off approach when it came to handling FromSoft. So they were basically independent and were free to take risks, like, for example, Armored Core, which Karakawa knew wouldn't sell as much as the Soulsborne games, but they still left them to make it. And not to mention, From Software never really had a flop or a bad release ever since they became popular after Demon Souls. So far, they've only released like bangers. So they have a clean record, which is something that is hard to find these days when it comes to video games, which is thanks to them not having to comply to demands or certain requirements from someone like Sony. I mean, yes, they do have a parent company, but they are not forcing them to add stuff to their games that From Software doesn't want to include. Like, I can imagine Sony going, hey buddy, make Dark Souls 4, but make sure to add a battle pass or an item shop. You gotta guarantee a profit. Now, Sony and From Software have worked with each other in the past when they made Bloodborne as a result of a joint partnership. And what have they done with the game? Nothing. It's been sitting there collecting dust and has been left abandoned for about 11 years locked in 30 frames. Even though FromSoft want to work on it, Sony have just been ignoring it, like it never even existed in the first place. And it's not like nobody played Bloodborne, it was a very successful game. It sold about 8 million copies. Fans have been demanding for a PC release for years, and a remastered version, where we can play the game in 60 or higher FPS, and also play the game with improved graphics. So another thing I feel will happen is that any game made by FromSoft under Sony will become a PlayStation exclusive. So forget about playing any of their new games during their release day on Steam. You will most likely wait 1 to 3 years for it to come to PC based on how good it sells. Plus, I feel like Sony will most likely just keep telling FromSoft to just remaster Dark Souls again or remake Dark Souls 2. Basically, safe decisions that aren't really that risky or involve something new. I just feel like Sony just they don't get how FromSoft or its CEO Hidetaki Miyazaki, like, they don't get them. They don't know how they operate and like how to handle them. Sony likes to have a firm grip over its properties and micromanage everything. Something that Karakawa don't do. They have a hands-off approach. Like, I'm not kidding. I feel that Sony might just go, "Hey, FromSoft, we would like for you to make a live service game and make sure that to add in heavy microtransactions." That's not really like something that could never happen. Sony have been saying that one of their main priorities is making live service games because in their eyes it's probably more sustainable and potentially more profitable. But I just don't see it happening and going well with people like, who play Souls games. Like, imagine a battle royale game in Limgrave and you have skins and weapons being sold for like $20. Like, that would throw me off and turn me away from the game. Not everything has to be like Fortnite. Another thing which I don't like about this deal is that the major companies in the gaming industry or corporations like Microsoft and Sony have been basically absorbing and consolidating all of the independent game development studios. Especially Microsoft. They acquired like tons of studios over the past couple of years. Studios like Bethesda and Activision Blizzard. Now, to keep it simple, what this means is that Sony's potential acquisition of FromSoft isn't just about one game dev studio. It's part of the large shift that's been happening over the past couple of years of like huge corporations consolidating or absorbing smaller and indie game development studios, which would reduce, in my opinion, the competition and reduce the creativity of developers working in the games and limit the variety of games that would come out of these corporations because they don't want to take risks. They want to keep it simple and safe and guarantee a profit, and of course make shareholders happy. So to conclude the video, in my honest opinion, don't want this deal to happen. I just know I have a gut feeling that it's not going to end up being good for FromSoft, and that's based on all the evidence I gave you in the other parts of the video. But all of this might not happen. The main focus of Karakawa being bought out by Sony is the anime part, anime and the production of manga. Sony want a firm grip over that kind of production and distribution of manga and anime. But so this means that maybe Sony will be lenient when it comes to FromSoft. Like they won't have their whole like eyes focusing on FromSoft. So maybe they won't change a lot and they will just be the same. I hope that happens because I'm not ready for a live service FromSoft game. Alright guys, so this is it for the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, please drop a like and a comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.